Mancini, co-author of Eating Las Vegas, the 50 Essential Restaurants. Here today at Valentino with the two great chefs of Valentino. We have Peiro Selvaggio, excuse me, I just butchered your name, and we have Luciano Pellegrini. How are you, gentlemen?
We're fine.
So Chef Peiro, I kind of want to start with you. This is obviously your name on the wall here, and this is your restaurant that you brought from Santa Monica to Las Vegas. You're kind of credited with creating this kind of gourmet Italian cuisine, or at least bringing it to the United States. Before you, people didn't really have this level of Italian cooking. Explain to people what it is you try to do and how it was received when you first started doing it almost, I guess, 40 years ago now, correct?
Yes. Well, I always like to say that Italian food 40 years ago was barely a third world country food. Although, there was the popularity of pizza, even then there was the pasta factor, and there were the scaloppini and some of the many items that we call it Italian American or pretty much immigrant food. And slowly, as we discovered that there were better products, I think the ultimate example of better products is mozzarella. In the old days, mozzarella was this long box of rectangular yellow cheese that in order to cut you need a super sharp knife, and you used to bread it and deep fry it and make something called mozzarella marinara, which is far from what buffalo mozzarella and very soft tasty mozzarella is. So discovering those products, and sometimes with a great deal of effort, because I remember the first true mozzarella, because we didn't have an Alitalia flying directly to Los Angeles, used to go to Harrods in London, and then I used to almost sublease them and send them. So by the time a week after, 10 days after, whatever was a great mozzarella became a sour piece of cheese. So pioneering means all of that. But in turn, as the communication got better, and as we went to Italy much more, we discovered that whatever was pseudo-Italian could be truly Italian. And suddenly it was a revolution of discovery, of flavors, of new items, of exciting items, and they haven't stopped. Because as you were coming in, we were talking about salumi, formaggi, pasta, all of the things that are truly Italian, but then at the same time, there is still a discovery to be made.
Mario Batali once said to me that the difference between Italian cuisine and, say, French cuisine is that Italian cuisine was born of poverty, whereas the best Italian cuisine came out of poverty, and whereas the finest French cuisine came out of, the kings and the queens. But you certainly take Italian cuisine to the level of French and of kings and queens. So do you disagree with that statement that Italian cuisine was born of poverty?
No, I don't disagree at all, because the finer Italian cuisine, remember that geographically Italy was a country without barriers. We were dominated by so many different influences, and the monarchy, so the noble cuisine, was represented by the Savoy, which were the kings of Italy until past Mussolini toward the end of the Second War. After that, there was the rich cuisine of the nobility, but then there was the mama cuisine. We call it mama cuisine with an endearment, which means everything else. What I think has happened in these 50 years of follow-up has been a rediscovery of our great material, of our great historical dishes, of our great development of anything that is artisanal. And basically, to answer a little bit more what Mario said, we have dressed elegantly the blue jeans of food, which was the rustic food. We have dressed it with truffles. We have dressed it with the finest mushroom. We have dressed it with great meat, fish, fowl, and so forth, in a way where the presentation, the flavors, the elegance, and the dish has made this rich cuisine. And so nobility, we are in a Republican period, so nobility doesn't exist that way.
Okay. So when you first opened your restaurant with this new type of cuisine in Santa Monica, how did people react? Were they slow to come around, or did they?
The slogan was, trust me, and then don't pay if you don't like. And yes, I had somebody that after I served the first radicchio said, you cannot charge me $10 for red cabbage. I had somebody that when I served buffalo mozzarella and tomato said, $10 for cottage cheese that is even tasting sour. You know, it's part of a pioneering stage. But then, you know, today we were on television because Wolfgang Puck says that his favorite dish is fettuccine with white truffles, and he can't wait when the first truffle come to Valentino. And people that see him on television keep saying, do you have truffles and how much it is? And you have to explain, you know, there are no white truffles in February or March, and how much it is, you shouldn't ask if that's what you want. But then, you know, it's one of the many things that we are proud as Italian, as what we have discovered. And I remember that the first shipment of truffles that I get was sawdust because the Italian had to screw me.
Wow. So, you know, you just mentioned Wolfgang Puck. I understand one of my co-authors of the book wrote that it was Chef Puck who actually convinced you to come to Las Vegas. Is that correct?
No, he convinced me to come to Las Vegas.
Okay.
I'm the reason behind him opening all of his restaurants, other than the individual, the original Valentino. So says Peiro.
Okay, so what was your inspiration for coming to Las Vegas, and how did you convince the chef that you were right?
Well, I think at the time I was somewhat tired of working in the valley in San Fernando, and when opportunity
in the valley suburbs.
When opportunity came knocking in the form of Mr. Goldstein, who was heading the committee of finding worthy restaurateurs to come to the Venetian, Peiro asked me whether I would move to Las Vegas if we accepted the offer, and I said in a heartbeat, I'll be there tomorrow. So that's how it all began.
When you came here to Las Vegas, was it difficult did you have to adapt your recipes and your ideas?
The first year or two, I definitely got my share of, hey, this is not an Italian restaurant. So, you know, it took a little bit, and we were just talking about 10 years ago, so it wasn't ages, you know, it wasn't decades ago.
Right.
But still, it took a little bit, you know, we definitely were exposed to a more Middle America clientele. You know, our average guests stayed 2-3 nights, came from all over the place. So you didn't have the regular restaurant setting where, you know, you open and then you establish a rapport and you establish a concept and then people will come back for your food. You know, you just have the one time to impress these people. So it was a bit of a challenge, but thank goodness, I mean, we do have at our disposal a slew of a wealth of recipes, whether you call them rustic or peasant food or you know, nobility. We actually were able to make ends meet, and we always had a dual concept, which always helped us. We always were able to offer the lasagna and the meatballs and the spaghetti clams in the front anyway, and then we were able to get away with offering you know, a little more modern take on Italian food in the back room.
So there's something for everyone here.
Absolutely, from A to Z. I mean, there is comfort food. There is you can be adventurous. You can challenge the chef if you want. At one point, you know, I even had on the menu, you know, if you want your favorite food prepared by us, all you have to do is ask. And then after a couple of times that I was asked to do blackened fish, I took the quote off, but we still did it a couple of times. And they still say that was the best blackened fish that they actually had ever.
Very cool.
But yeah, it was definitely a learning experience.
How do you two collaborate on the menu here? I mean, how frequently do you come in? I mean, because, you know, Chef Luciano, obviously, you're as well known as any celebrity chef here in Las Vegas, and you have an incredible reputation. And, of course, you have this gentleman back in California kind of running the show with his name on the wall. How's the collaboration between the two of you work?
Well, I pretty much oversee the whole operation, and Peiro, you know, will give me his feedback if and when he sees something.
Gives his blessing or his negative feedback, and it's very obvious that there is a complete trust after 24 or 25 years, 26 years of association. Who's counting? And after all of these
apparently
years,
he's counting.
well, listen, he has been with me longer than any wife I've had. So.
Actually, it'll be 26 years in 2 weeks.
Wow.
March 15.
Yes.
Well, Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, and longevity and partnership. But obviously the issue is, while at first for the different operation I was writing the menu, and not that I am a chef by trade, but I was writing menus, trying to be creative, trying to be aggressive, trying to be a little cutting edge, and knowing that I had collaboration from the young people, which was Luciano and a few others, that were going to follow that philosophy. And sure enough, the first restaurant when Luciano came to this country had dishes, primi, which means first courses, and his concept that I'm repeating, had among the many successful dish fettuccine with duck confit. We had sweetbread and gorgonzola salad. We had creativity galore. And we had the pasta that we call it fiorellini and caramelle, so little flowers and little candies. We had all of these things that were a breath of fresh air almost in a very stagnant Italian cuisine of that time. So since then, of course, Luciano's had carte blanche, and definitely in Vegas, I here and there tell him, this may make sense, this I don't know if it works, but it's pretty much his free range, how he sees that these two operations have to be conducted.
And to add on to that, I have to also say that Peiro is quite a poet. And many a times he would just write a menu, and then we were just left with figuring out how exactly to prepare that dish because it was never done before. But he definitely had a knack of putting ingredients together that eventually turned out to be a valid dish.
You have something very interesting here. A lot of chefs have cookbooks on the market, and you have a cookbook, but not only can you buy the cookbook here, but you actually do a tasting menu of items that are in the cookbook. You know, there are a lot of times I walk into a restaurant and I'll see the chef's cookbook and there won't be a single one of those dishes anywhere on the menu.
Right. Well, number one, the cookbook is a collection of recipes that are easily replicated and that, you know, represent what our interpretation of Italian food has been here so far. And granted that it has been a while since it was published. And the other thing is, you know, we're actually kind of proud of the three menus we have. You know, we do have the tasting menu that, you know, is created by the chef, and then we do have the cookbook menu, which are recipes taken from the cookbook. And then we actually have a taste of our menu where we actually give you we make you taste 70% of the actual a la carte menu in one single swoop.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I also wanted to just comment one more time that you were on, make sure you both have new copies of this. I know you've already received it, but congratulations again on being included in Eating Las Vegas, the 50 Essential Restaurants. Did you enjoy the book?
Very much so. Very much so.
It was great reading. Great concept.
Great. Well, gentlemen,
I found out many things about many restaurants that I didn't know
we
before.
were not aware.
yeah. So,
And by the way, just out of curiosity, Gian Marian just came out with a book that is titled How Italian Food Conquered the World.
yes, absolutely. I'm familiar with that book.
And there are quite a few pages dedicated to me, which makes me very proud.
Yes, very nice. And of course, John Mariani, who wrote our foreword of our book here. So
that's why I was reading his name.
Yes.
And I hope Eating Las Vegas is going to be a big I mean, it's Zagat, let's put it that way, because sometimes I wonder why Zagat just took off the way it took off, and anybody that comes to Las Vegas will have this as a little Bible, I hope.
great. Well, thank you, gentlemen, very much. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.